recently, I've been getting more and more frustrated as our school system has continued denigrating and destroying history, all with a racial lens to try and racially divide this country, more than it already is, by the way. It's been extremely disillusioning with the school system, like I need any more of that, and very, very wrong what they're doing. So welcome back to the JB Sills Show. We're back with Operation Anti-Indoctrination, going solo mode today. Should be a fun time. We have a lot to talk about, and I would like to start off with this article here, which is basically a great representation for what's happening all across America. Perhaps it's worse in San Francisco, which is where this is, but you have renaming public schools, basically just washing away history, completely destroying history, American history, and this is something that I believe to be completely wrong and should not be happening. So basically, the thing is that, simply put, the past is very important. The past is important. The past matters. History matters, and we should not be blanket celebrating American history, because obviously American history, like all history, is highly imperfect. However, I believe that we should be respecting American history, and what's happening right now is completely disrespectful towards American history. I mean, American history made, America the wealthiest, most successful country ever for all its flaws. So while I do not believe we should be just celebrating every aspect of American history, I do believe that we should be respecting it. I think that is probably a good way to put it. I think that's how we should be taught, essentially, is to respect American history, because that's all. It's just the truth. I mean, America's done some bad things, but overall, it's been, well, I mean, look where we are now. It's been pretty good overall, considering where we are now. We're not great now, but it's come a long way. So what you have here is, in San Francisco, they're renaming schools. They're renaming the George Washington School, Abraham Lincoln School, Thomas Jefferson School, all these schools, and they've put that on hold. They've said, well, now we're going to consult with some historians because people are getting mad at us. I mean, I have no idea why that could possibly be happening. Why would anyone be mad at history being denigrated and decimated? That would, nothing wrong with that. So, what you have is Gabriela Lopez putting this on hold and saying that we're going to consult with historians. And I guess that's after a lot of pressure. That's after a lot of pressure, a lot of flack. You can see some of the schools here if you're watching on YouTube. Thomas Jefferson, named after Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and even current people like Dianne Feinstein, who I guess they think is racist for some reason. But you have all these schools being renamed for inclusivity and diversity, even though they're, all we're doing is respecting American history. The reason we're all here, the reason America is the way as it is the past. And of course there are things in the past that were abhorrent that everyone almost universally views today as abhorrent. And you know what? There's probably going to be things in another 100 or 200 years today that people in the future will view as abhorrent or horrible. Okay? So this is not we're not living in this eternal present where we're just so enlightened now. We're so enlightened that we realize all that's right and we know all that's wrong. That's not how this works. And, of course, a lot of stuff in the past was horrible. But you know what? A lot of stuff today is horrible or will be viewed as horrible. So, I mean, that's how it is. That's how our perception works. That's how society works. That's how it has always worked, where the past always seems a little barbaric, a little nuts. And in some ways, in a lot of ways it was, but in other ways, the present will probably be viewed that way. So, just a very, very bad thing that's happening right now, where we're completely destroying our history in the school system particularly, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. And all of this has a bit of all of this has a very racial undertone, a very, it's under the guise of equality, but it really couldn't be further from the truth. This is not equality. This is just sowing racial division because, well, we can. I mean, this is shown by the next article here, which is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, two wonderful people who I would never ever want to question, by the way, bankrolling the idea that math is racist. This is, it sounds like a joke to say. It sounds like an Onion article 10 years ago. Math is racist. Confirmed. 100% true. It is a racist thing. So, you have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, one of the most powerful foundations in the world, talking about how math is racist and putting that in the school system. So, it's about a group of educators that have this toolkit, which is offering a new approach to math through a, as this article says, social justice lens. Because apparently now mathematics is it's a completely subjective activity, mathematics. Meaning there's no right or wrong answers. So basically, maybe 2 plus 2 equals 3, maybe it equals 5, could equal 4, but who knows? There's really no way to determine if it's right or not. I mean, after all, math is just a societal abstraction of white supremacy, according to this foundation. So I guess, facts and sort of stuff like that is white supremacist because it was in the West, like, made by white people. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's what they think. I don't know. I have a bit of a hard time wrapping my head around this, let alone actually, like, hearing it out, because it just seems so ridiculous. And it is a middle school thing, which is kind of, I guess, sort of the prime time to indoctrinate, because if you go to elementary school, although there's lots of indoctrination in elementary school, the problem with that is that the kids oftentimes don't care, and the problem with indoctrinating in high school is that kids have, in many cases, already formed their own opinions. So, middle school is really the sweet spot in a lot of ways, and it's still very effective in elementary and high school indoctrination. But middle school, in a lot of ways, is possibly the best time to indoctrinate, because just you're sort of in that spot where you care, but you don't necessarily have your own opinions yet. So the idea is that math is racist, and if you get a wrong answer, you got that because of white supremacy. Completely ridiculous, and again, it's all about fomenting racial division, sowing a race war, because that's all these people care about is race. That's all that matters to them. They're racialists, just sort of in the opposite way of what we've been taught to. Because it's not the KKK, but it's something a little different. It's sort of, anti-white for one thing, but it's under the guise of anti-racism. And, the way you do this is to just admit you're racism. Just admit you're racist. That's all you need to do. And if you do that, well, it'll all be good. We'll have something called equity. Equity, not equality. No. Equity, much more important than equality. Equality being basically equality of opportunity. Equity being equality of outcome. So that's it's just very, very concerning stuff. I don't know what's gonna happen. I really don't. But the most powerful people in society want it, and as a general rule, when the most powerful people in society in this world, these days want something, you should generally be against that. So that's that. I don't think this really requires much more. It's already being taught for one thing, but I don't think this requires a whole lot more talk. I think everyone listening to this should be commonsensical enough, have a high enough intelligence to sort of grasp that, hey, maybe this isn't such a great thing. Maybe this is not a fantastic idea, teaching that math is racist and all that. And then we have the biggest thing of all, the biggest topic of them all, the 1619 Project. I'm not a big okay, so a bit of a tangent, but I'm not a big fan of PragerU. If you go to, I won't do it now. But if you go to YouTube and go to PragerU, I'm not a huge fan of theirs. I find a lot of this stuff quite cliche. But they've done some good videos on the 1619 project, and I mean it's incredibly easy to expose for how ridiculous it is. Truly, I mean it's not difficult to expose the 1619 project. But I do think it's very important that you know what's going on, because if you're a parent listening to this, there is a not insignificant chance that your kids are being taught this, that they're being taught something called critical race theory, which is basically the idea that all white people are racist. If you're white, you can't not be racist, actually. And actually, the least racist white people are the ones who admit they're racist. Kind of funny how we've sort of flipped things upside down, where if you say you're racist, makes you less racist, versus if you don't say you're racist, that means you're more racist. Kind of funny how that works. But it's all over the place. I've seen some critical race theory stuff in school. Probably wasn't the 1619 project, but it's all over the school system. And I mean, it's quite incredible, really. Just incredible would be the term I use. What's happening with the 1619 project, and how kids are being indoctrinated to believe, first of all, that America was founded in 1619, not 1776. 4th of July doesn't matter. You can just hate on it. And that basically all of American history was built around white supremacy. And the only reason America became independent was for white supremacy, because the founders, they secretly all wanted to keep their slaves. Everything, all their newspaper articles, all their letters, that was all just fake. That was them putting on the greatest facade in history so that they could keep their, conspiratorially keep their slaves. And that's just completely ridiculous. It's been debunked by historians across political lines. I mean, this is not something that only people that are, anti-woke or whatever are against. This is something that pretty much everyone with an ounce of actual information is against. But of course, when you're going to school, you don't necessarily have that information to know that, hey, what they're telling you is absolute crap. It's hard. I mean, it's just complete revisionism. It's unprofessional. It's not worthy of anything, let alone American schools, sort of the most important institution in America. I mean, this is the place where kids are nominally educated. Doesn't get much more important than that, quite frankly. But listen, and if you're on YouTube, you can read all this. But basically, it explains how the 1619 project functions, how basically America is supposedly so racist that it can never shed it, but if you recognize you're racist, and you recognize that supposedly you are inherently victimizing everyone who's not white, if you're white, then you can start to rectify this a little by little. And it's completely ridiculous, and again, just meant to sow racial division, get African Americans to hate white people, and by extension, probably white people to hate other races. This is just horrible stuff, and there have been many top historians that have written letters to the New York Times, which is the scummy organization that was behind the 1619 project, talking about the factual errors, just how incorrect this thing is, and how everything about this is just completely wrong. This article here says that the claim that the American Revolution was launched, quote, in order to ensure slavery would continue, quote unquote, was flat out wrong, and that is of course true. America was not founded to continue slavery. That's utterly false. There's no evidence for that. And that somehow American capitalism has its roots in slavery. That's ridiculous. All of this is just ridiculous. It's complete revisionism written by people that do not care one bit about history. They don't. So what you have is a school system that's been either neglected or infiltrated. It's one of the two. You can't have anything else. It's been neglected or it's been infiltrated. And because of that, all of us have basically paid a price, especially if you went to public school. We've all basically suffered from it, and we're going to continue until get your kids out. I mean, just get out of there. It's nothing good about it, especially now that you have quote unquote online learning in a lot of cases. Nothing is good about it. Nothing is right about it. It's all wrong. It's all fake. It's not meant to educate. Never has been, quite frankly. It's just gotten worse and worse. And, I mean, that's just how it is. Probably how it'll always be. And, honestly, the school system is fundamentally doomed to fail because they're going against all human nature when it comes to learning. You're trying to make kids learn in these dry, just secluded environments where you're not in the world, you're not in the outside world, you're just in these bubbles. You're in bubbles. That's all it is. And that's not how learning works. So they're doomed. These systems are doomed to fail. No wonder everyone hates them. And that's that. I mean, the system can never be successful. The system will always fail. And, well, it's not gonna be pretty when it all comes crashing down, but it will come crashing down. It's only a matter of time. We can only take the abuse for so long. But I think that's it for today. A little bit shorter for a sort of solo episode, but that's fine. So if you did like this video, please do like and subscribe. And if you could leave a comment, that would be super awesome. And share it with a friend. I would love that. And you can check out the description. Follow us on social media. Until next time, I've been your host, JB. Have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.